Here's the truth. Excel isn't dead. Excel is still one of the most important tools in business nowadays. And from small startups to big corporations, Excel is being used to track performance, analyze data, and drive key business decisions every single day. But here's the thing, most people just scratch the surface of it, and if you know how to use it, you're already ahead of the game. In this video, I'll show you how to stop using Excel like a to-do list and use it like a data analyst does. For example, clean messy data, identify trends, build dashboards, and tell stories that matter. Let's get into it. For this exercise, I will make use of the European Superstore dataset. And when you start working with a new dataset, you would like firstly to get an idea of what is it about. Let's do that right now. You will see that it includes several orders with information such as order date, order ID, the customer details, where the product was shipped, the product details such as the ID of the product, the category and the subcategory, as well as some numerical measures at the very right side. So the sales that this order has generated, the quantity of items that were part of this order, as well as discount, if any, and the profit that this order brought in. Before starting with anything here, I would like to highlight a few of the key shortcuts that I use daily in Excel. Firstly, when you have a big data set, it is really helpful to be able to navigate fast from top to bottom in your data set, even if it's really big, for example, hundreds of thousands of rows or millions. And you can do that very nicely using your Control and the arrow keys. So if I press Control and the left arrow, I go to the very left end of the dataset. If I keep Control pressed down and then press the down arrow, I go to the very end. And then I can do that all over again. Now, what if I want to actually select the cells within that range? I press Control and Shift at the same time, and then the down arrow, and then again, having Control and Shift pressed down, I press the right arrow, and you see that I have already highlighted my full dataset, so I can apply formatting or do any kind of operation in all the data in this sheet. Of course, common shortcuts such as Control-C for copying, Control-V for pasting, and Control-Z for undoing hold true also in Excel as they do in so many other applications. Another thing is formatting. So you will find yourself many times wanting to select a couple of fields and then formatting them. For example, pressing right click and then going down to the format cells option, and then you have this pop-up menu. Instead of doing this, you can just select your cell range, then press Control and the 1, and you have the same menu popping up just in one step. Now you might want to move one column from one place to another in this big dataset, and you can do it nicely by selecting the column, pressing your Shift button down, and then hovering over until you find this symbol, and then let's say move it here between the column D and E. And this basically brings the order date column between the ship date, which moves more to the left side, and the ship date column. You can also create or delete a column very fast. For example, highlighting column E, I can press Ctrl and minus, and this deletes the column. Now I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo, or you can press Ctrl and plus and create a column to the left side of the column that you have highlighted. Moving on, I can see that not all cell values are fully visible. For example, here. In order to fix that, I can go here to the upper left, select the full dataset by clicking here, and then double-click between any two columns of the dataset, for example, here. And we can see now that the width of all columns is properly adjusted. Now, when you have to work with a new dataset, it might occur that you have to clean it up a bit, because data is not always as clean as we would like it to be. For example, in this dataset, I can see if I scroll down that there are some empty cells, so null values, or if I go to the very bottom, I can see that a couple of rows, so these 4, are fully duplicated. So I would like to handle both of these cases. In order to remove duplicates, I can select the full dataset, go to Data, and then here I have the option to remove duplicates. If I click it and then press OK, it says 4 duplicate values found and removed. So click OK, go again to the very end by pressing Ctrl and the down arrow, and you see, they are removed. Next up, finding null values and handling them. What you can do is pressing Ctrl G, then Special, then Blanks, and then click OK. That will tell Excel to try to find your blank cells in this worksheet. And indeed, we have identified the three values here that are null. And what we can do is fill them in with the missing numbers. I can understand from the sequence of numbers that the missing ones is 9840, 9841 and so on. And I can fill them in like this. Another thing that can happen is that some cells might not be properly formatted. For example, if we go to column E, ship mode, and start scrolling down, we can see here that some of the cells have extra blank characters in them. How we can handle them? We can create a new column here, and I'm gonna press Ctrl+ as we have said. I'm gonna call this ship mode like this, and I'm gonna use the trim function of Excel. So I'm gonna start typing equals trim and then select the column on the left side and press enter. Now I can drag and drop this function all across by double clicking here, and we can see the problematic cells are actually handled. And actually I don't care about having a function under the hood here in column F. What I can do is select the full column, pressing Ctrl+C and then Ctrl+Shift+V. This will make sure to copy and paste these cells as values in the same exact location. You see, now I don't have a reference of the function anymore here. Now I don't need this column anymore, so I can press Ctrl- and I have my new ship mode. Lastly, there might be cases where a certain column holds more than one piece of information and you would like both of them in your dataset. For example, column F has two pieces here. Firstly, the initials of the customer, as you can see, and then the customer ID. Let's say I would like to have those two as separate columns in this data. What I can do is highlight the column F, go to Data, Text to Columns, and then delimit it. I have to specify what is the special character based on which I'm going to split the column up. And in my case, it's the dash. So I'm going to click Next, and then under Other, I will make sure that I have a dash typed in. And here on the bottom, you have a preview of how it will look like when I complete this operation. So I'm going to press Next, and then I have to select where exactly Excel will drop these new two columns. I wouldn't like to drop them at the F column because this will override the existing values here as well as the values of the column G, which is the next one. So instead, I'm going to click this arrow here, and I'm going to scroll till the very end of this dataset, and I'm going to select basically column U. And I'm going to click Finish. And now you have these two new columns here, the customer ID, I'm going to actually call it customer initials, and the customer ID, just next. Alright, so now we are familiar with our dataset, we have seen what is it about, and we have cleaned it up. Let's do some cool stuff with it. But first things first, what I really like to do before doing anything else is converting this cell range into what's called an Excel table. You can do that by pressing anywhere in this dataset, pressing Ctrl+T, and then OK. Now on the top you see a new tab popping up which is called Table Design. And in fact, I find this formatting a bit too busy, so I will go to Table Design, Table Styles, and select another format for now. Now, why to convert the cell range into a table? Firstly, because it's a bit cleaner, it's making it quite easy to apply functions and transformations, and what's really important is that a table is a self-expanding object. For example, if I go to the very end of this dataset, we see that we have 10,000 orders here. What if tomorrow I would like to add one more row in this dataset that represents one more order, and I would like any calculations that I have set up to apply also for this one? I can start typing the new order number, for example 10,001, and when pressing enter you can see that this table has expanded automatically, as we can tell by the blue formatting here on the bottom. Now that this is out of the way, let's do some things. Firstly, if we scroll here to the right, we can see that there is a column called country, and this is really a string, it's a text which lives within each one of those cells. But what we can do is highlight column K, go to Data, and then under Data Types, select Geography. Now that's a special feature of Excel that enables us to change the data type of each one of those cells, and instead of being just text, is now representing a geography object. If you hover over the button here and press it, you can see a lot of metadata about the country, for example, the capital, the population, the area, the abbreviation, and so on. And we can do it also for each one of the countries in our dataset. Pretty cool, right? But what if we would like to introduce some of this country-specific information as a new field in our dataset? That's still pretty easy. What we can do is go here on the right side where it says Add Column, press it, and then scroll through this very impressive list of different items. What I would like to introduce myself is the currency code for each one of those countries, and I'm gonna click it here. You see that automatically I have a new column which is dynamic based on the different countries that we're talking about. Moving on, two fields that we have in this dataset is the sales for this order and the quantity for the same order. And what we can calculate based on that is the price per item. For example, if we create a new column here by pressing Ctrl+ and name this column price per item, we can say that the price for each one of these 3 items in this specific order is the total amount of sales for this order divided by the number of the items sold. So we can now press enter and you see that the calculation propagates across the full table. And that's one of the benefits of having Excel tables. I don't need to drag the full formula down as I did before. What if I would like to format this output to just have one decimal point? I can highlight the column, press Ctrl and 1, go to number, and then specify 1 decimal point and press OK. I hope you liked it. Stay tuned for part 2, where we're talking about pivot tables, pivot charts, conditional formatting, and more. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment below how are you using Excel in your daily life. See you in the next one.